So Airbnb in 2025 isn't the same platform it used to be. There are a host of new rules, there are much tighter margins, and there's actually much more competition than there's ever been on the platform. It feels much easier than ever to lose money on the platform. But here's the truth. Most new hosts don't fail because of bad guests. They fail because they make money moves that quietly drain their profits even before they realize it. Meanwhile, the top hosts, they've figured out a way to plug these leaks. And in a lot of ways, y'all, they're turning some of these challenges into their biggest advantage ever on the platform. And in this video, I'll show you 5 powerful use cases unlocked by the latest version of ChatGPT. Y'all, these feel like a game changer. And it's no surprise, these are some of those advantages that your competitors want to keep a secret. They don't want you to know about these because when you tap into these, you will gain a competitive edge. We're using these tactics right now in our business, and it's allowed us to save 20 or more hours a week. It's allowed us to kind of grow much more quickly than some of the folks in our market. And while individuals are struggling, we're having our best 3 months ever in over a decade on Airbnb. By the way, I'm Seth. I'm one of the co-founders of the Innkeepers Collective. We've hosted thousands of guests across multiple properties, and we generate about $1 million on Airbnb each year. And more importantly, I help new hosts launch and grow profitable Airbnbs. This is actually what we do best in our business. And the prompts and strategies that I'm sharing in this video aren't things that kind of got pulled out of thin air. These are the same things we're using every single day, every single week in our business to protect our profits and grow our bookings. Now, if there's one place that new hosts lose money, it's actually on pricing. And this is actually really unfortunate because pricing is the #1 lever in our business. And here's where most hosts sometimes go wrong. A lot of hosts will simply just copy the pricing of their competitors, or in some cases, some of these hosts will actually lean on Airbnb's smart pricing strategy. And the problem with this approach is that it often undervalues your property. And in a lot of ways, y'all, it's simply a race to the bottom. Now, there are software programs you can get to automate pricing, but if you're just getting started and trying to kind of keep your expenses low, this next option is actually a great one because it allows you to get some of the benefit of automated pricing without the expense. And with ChatGPT-5's deep reasoning approach, you can finally price your strategy without the guesswork. So here's what I mean. You can feed your property details into ChatGPT-5, things like your market data, your expenses, and then what you'll do is you'll ask it to provide you a 30-day pricing plan that balances both occupancy as well as profits. And this isn't just math. In ChatGPT-5, it actually reasons across multiple factors. Things like seasonality, local events, comparable listings, amenities, even your expense structure can actually be incorporated into this model. And what you get back isn't just random numbers. You're going to get a true strategy that you can incorporate and act on in your business. So here's one way to think about it. If you're underpricing by just $10 a night, and let's say you're booked roughly around 220 nights a year, that's roughly $2,200 you're leaving on the table. And the crazy thing about this is money that most hosts don't realize that they've ever even lost. So here's the first power prompt. You are an Airbnb revenue strategist. Using deep reasoning, create a 30-day pricing calendar for my listings, factoring demand trends, local events, seasonal changes, comparable listings, amenities, and also my expenses. Balance occupancy and profit to maximize total revenue. Present results in a daily table with recommended nightly rate, expected occupancy percentage, and projected revenue. Now, this next piece is really important. Ask it to highlight the top 3 revenue boosting weeks and suggest 2 pricing adjustments I can test for higher conversion. Now, once you run this, here's what you're going to get back. The results isn't just a set of suggested pricing. It really is a 30-day pricing calendar that shows you a number of important factors. You will get the nightly rate for every single day. You also get the occupancy percentage you can actually expect. You'll get the projected revenue for each week. You'll get the 3 weeks where you can actually earn the most money. And you'll also get the pricing experiments that you can actually run and test to squeeze out as much bookings as possible. And y'all, this is really important because from this one prompt, you'll be able to gain cash flow confidence. You'll get event-driven advantage. And you'll also be able to test 1 or 2 different approaches that allows you to pick the strategy that works best for your business. And these are small levers, but they actually deliver really big impact. So this is something you should absolutely tap into today. So instead of copying your neighbor's prices or guessing where to set your rates, you can now have a strategist working for you in the background, maximizing your revenue week by week. And y'all, this is just the start, because the same reasoning power that transforms your pricing can also help you to optimize the next big piece of your business. So you've got your pricing dialed in, but pricing only gets people in the door. What makes them come back and actually rave about you is actually the experience they had while staying at your property. And this is where GPT-5 gives you an unfair edge. Here's the truth that most hosts will miss. The difference between a 4-star review and a 5-star review often isn't about the big things. Actually, it's about the very small things that sometimes as hosts we will overlook. And it's those pesky little things like guests couldn't find the Wi-Fi password. The check-in instructions were a little bit too confusing. One of the blinds in the bedroom didn't quite cover the window, so light came in and folks could not get the level of sleep that they wanted. These are the tiny things that guests encounter at our property that causes 1 or 2 of those stars from the reviews. And with this new version of ChatGPT, you may even upload some of the reviews from your competitors. And what you'll do is you're going to ask ChatGPT to extract some of those hidden patterns. And you don't just want the surface level keywords, but you want the real themes behind why guests kind of praise your property or why sometimes there are guests will complain. So let's go ahead and jump right to the next power prompt. So you're an Airbnb guest experience strategist. Analyze the reviews, both mine as well as the competitors. Identify the top 5 recurring complaints as well as the delight factors. Explain why each matters to guest satisfaction. Then write 3 proactive guest message templates that address the complaints before they happen and highlight the delight factors during their stay. So here's one way to think about this. You're checking into a hotel, and before you can even ask, the hotel will send you a text message with a note that says, by the way, we have super fast Wi-Fi and here is the password. So imagine this, you don't have to hunt for the password. You have it right there at hand. Y'all, this may feel small, but these small touches is exactly what guests will point to in giving a much higher review following their stay. These are the kind of foresights, the thinking ahead that helps to exceed guest expectations. What the results of this prompt will also give you is what I'm calling like a guest complaint radar, in that it helps you to kind of spot recurring issues that sometimes we will overlook as hosts. This prompt can also help you to build out what I'm also calling the delight playbook, in that it highlights what guests love most about staying at your property. And I absolutely love this next option, and that is it allows you to actually pre-write your messages so you have a plug and play strategy that preempts some of the issues that will pop up from time to time. And when you have these messages pre-written, you can actually use them in an automated guest messaging system, or if you don't have that in place yet, you can simply just copy and paste these messages and send them to your guests without having to really think about it and create a new message on the fly. And the compounding effect of this is actually quite huge. We know that better reviews is going to push you higher in search. Higher rankings actually means more bookings. More bookings actually is the key driver to you growing your revenue. And you're able to do all of this without dropping your prices. So instead of waiting for the bad reviews to actually pile up, you are now able to predict what guests need and are now able to address those things up front. And focusing on these small details is exactly how you climb into the reviews and either get to the front page of Airbnb or stay on the front page of Airbnb so that your money is predictable day after day, week after week, and month after month. By the way, I know that this can be a lot to take in, so I've pulled together all of the prompts that I'm talking about in today's video into an easy and free downloadable guide. They're copy and paste ready, no guessing, no rewriting, just plug them right into ChatGPT and you can start using them to grow your business today. Now, once you get this guest experience thing kind of bulletproof, you absolutely do not want to stop there, because this next use case solves one of the biggest frustrations we have as hosts, and that is guest confusion. And some of you watching this will empathize with this next thing, because you may be in a situation where you might have had a guest message you at like 1 o'clock in the morning and with a question around something like, hey, I can't figure out how to turn the TV on. And And worse yet, they can't figure out how to operate the thermostat or the oven or even where the trash goes out. This is one we got quite often in the early days of hosting on Airbnb. And the issue here is, y'all, if we don't address these kind of frustrations are exactly the ones that will show up in a guest review. But with the latest version of ChatGPT, we're able to build a custom house manual that covers all of these details. And we can make this manual quite clear, skimmable. We can also kind of make it on brand with our business. So let's go and jump right to the prompt on this one. So you're an Airbnb guest experience expert. You want to create a digital house manual for my property, include a warm welcome message with Wi-Fi details, appliance and tech instructions, parking and trash info, house rules, emergency contacts, and 3 to 5 local recommendations. Make it friendly, concise, and easy to skim. You'll also want to request that it be formatted both for PDF as well as mobile. So there's 2 bonus sections that could reduce guest questions or complaints. So here's what you get. The result of this isn't just a PDF manual. What you will have is a professional guide that helps you do a few things, such as cut down on some of those midnight questions, reduce some of the friction with clear rules. It would also help you boost the perceived value of your property, which will save you about 20 hours or more per week. And it also adds a bonus section like the hidden gems or some of the troubleshooting tips that guests tend to find incredibly helpful. So instead of feeling the same kind of late night questions, you've got a 24/7 virtual co-host handling all of the details. But what about standing out before the guests even book your property? And that is exactly where the next use case comes in. So on average, guests spend less than 6 seconds scanning the title off your listing. And the first 2 lines of your listing description is exactly what they use to determine whether or not they should click on your listing or just continue scrolling by. So we know from a decade of research on this, but the photos will actually grab the attention of your guests, but it is in fact the words that actually close the booking deal. And the problem here is that most hosts will copy generic phrases or pile on like a whole bunch of adjectives that actually turn guests off. And with the new version of ChatGPT, you're not just going to get fluff. It analyzes what travelers actually care about in 2025. And these are some of the things like remote workspace, the kind of smart home tech, safety, the walkability of the community where your property is located. And these things can actually be woven into your listing when you tap into this latest version of ChatGPT. So let's go right to the power prompt. So you're an Airbnb conversion copywriter. Rewrite my listing title and description to maximize clicks and bookings. Highlight the top amenities that travelers care about and keep it under 500 words. Write it in a warm, persuasive tone that balances both SEO with trust. And then provide 2 alternative titles for A/B testing. So what you're getting is a high converting title. You're getting persuasive description. You're getting the SEO keywords built right into the description. You're also getting 2 testable options. And this really matters, y'all, because a higher click-through rate is exactly the things that pushes you higher up in search. Better conversion means more bookings without cutting your prices, the thing that we try to avoid most as hosts. And here's the thing, even a 2% increase in your bookings is actually worth thousands of dollars to your annual revenue. And the real value of this prompt is so the next time guests are actually scrolling through dozens of listings, yours is actually not going to be one of them, because with this strategy, when you apply this, you are not going to blend in. You're going to stand out. And by standing out, you are going to get more clicks and win more bookings. And even after they book, the real work for us as hosts comes during their stay. And that is actually what I'll cover next. So here's one that most hosts don't think about before it's too late, and that is actually disputes and chargebacks. So think about this. A guest stay at your property for a week, they leave you a glowing review, and then a few days later, they actually reach out to their bank and dispute the charge. They're disputing that they stayed at your place at all. And far too often what Airbnb will do in these cases, they will go and yank back your revenue after the guests have already stayed at your property. I don't know about y'all, but that is actually a nightmare, and it happens more than you may think. But with this latest version of ChatGPT, you can generate a professional dispute response in just a few minutes. So let's go and jump right to the prompt on this one. And here's the prompt. You're an Airbnb host dispute specialist. Write a persuasive dispute response letter. Use guest communications logs, booking history, and Airbnb policies. Strengthen my case with clear evidence. Keep the tone respectful but firm. Format it in both Airbnb as well as bank chargeback claims. And what these results will give you isn't just another template. Instead, you are going to get a custom letter that you can simply review and send off to the bank to make sure that you're not losing out on this dispute. And y'all, this is really important because it helps you to protect your income. It also helps you to reduce the time and stress that these issues will sometimes take. And in a lot of ways, it helps to level the playing field against you and the big banks. And so while some of these other hosts may lose thousands of dollars in disputes, you're not going to be one of them. You're going to be ready, you're going to be protected, and you're going to be focused on continuing to grow your revenue. Let's talk about what could actually be the single biggest game changer in 2025, and that is agent mode, a new feature on ChatGPT-5. And this new feature is not actually just about answering questions. Agent mode actually takes actions on your behalf. It may be something like hiring a virtual assistant that never sleeps and also someone who you don't have to pay any extra money. So imagine asking it to research the top 20 Airbnb listings in your city. On top of that, ask it to analyze the photos, the reviews, the pricing, and then don't stop there. Ask it to rank the improvements that you should make to your own listing to outperform those top 20 listings in your market. And even with my background as a PhD level researcher, this would actually still take me hours and hours out of my day to perform. Or it may be something, if I had to pay somebody, actually, this may cost a few $100s to pay a consultant to complete this on my behalf. But with agent mode, you can get these ranked improvements in less than 20 minutes. And y'all, that is just the start. Y'all, there are so many more functions you can ask agent mode to perform. One of them may be things like build a smart event calendar price playbook. You may also ask it to run a full setup red flag scan. Things like generate a competitor domination report. These are just a few of those functions that could be highly valuable to you as a host that you ask it to perform. I don't know about you, but these aren't just gimmicks. These are time-consuming, expensive tasks that agent mode can actually do in just a few minutes. So here's what it means for your business. With agent mode and the other prompts that I've shared, these will help you to get the competitive advantage. It'll actually help you to build market power. And in a lot of ways, y'all, you will save so much time from tapping into these efficiencies. Hey, the point here is really simple. Agent mode doesn't just give you ideas, it can actually take steps that move your business forward. And this is not actually exaggeration. That's why the gap in 2025 won't be between new hosts versus veteran hosts. It may actually be between the hosts who are using agent mode versus those who are not. So we've talked about pricing, we've talked about guest reviews, we've also talked about building out a house manual. We've talked about your marketing, as well as how to safeguard your revenue from guest disputes. And then finally, we talked about agent mode and how you're able to use this in truly revolutionary ways to help grow your business on Airbnb. But these are just tools. So the only question is, will you actually start using these before your competitors catch on to them? So if you find this information helpful, imagine what happens when you stack these with some of the other strategies that I share every single week on this channel. And when you put this information together, it's going to help you double your bookings and protect your revenue. So if you find this helpful, go ahead and like and subscribe for me. It actually helps other hosts find this content right here on YouTube. And if you're not using ChatGPT-5 yet, you're leaving money on the table. These 5 use cases plus agent mode helps you to protect your cash flow and keep you ahead of the competition in your market. And y'all, I want you to win on Airbnb, and that's why I'm sharing all the prompts. You don't have to write anything down. You can rewatch this if you want to, but I'm sharing all the prompts and you can just go and grab those down below. But don't stop here. AI alone is actually not going to save you if you miss Airbnb's 2025 new rule changes. And those rules are reshaping payouts, ranking, as well as compliance. Y'all, these are some of the biggest changes that Airbnb has made in over a decade. made. And so click here to watch my full breakdown of these changes. Consider this your survival guide, because when you pair what you have learned in this video with those new rules, you're going to be able to outperform 90% of the other hosts in your market without losing bookings or falling behind. You will absolutely gain that competitive edge that all of us as hosts are trying to get.